Well, I mean, the weather couldn't be any more beautiful. I think we talked this year with our team about doing something special and doing something that hasn't been done before. And I don't know if I've ever seen I'd like to say spring, but a winter like this where you're 70 degrees and you're out there playing softball. So it's fun this time of year that people are just starting to realize that baseball and softball are kicking in. And once those pitchers and catchers report to training camp for the MLB, I think everybody starts to realize the Badgers are playing too, even though we're on the road. So we're thrilled with playing a really hard schedule and coming out with some good wins and finishing hot this weekend, one of the toughest invitationals in the country. I think that confidence is just going to push us in here as we go into our last 2 weeks of travel before we start Big Tens.
Questions?
Kind of a small sample size, but maybe what have you learned that you didn't know about your team so far?
I think the freshmen have come on and come out of the gate storming. This was a really small class for us, a really regional class, a ton of Wisconsin kids. And so if you're someone who cheers for softball in the state of Wisconsin, you got to come out and watch this team play once we get back to Goodman. You've got Hillary Blomberg, who's just down the street from Verona, just really hitting elite pitching. And so she's just a funny, unassuming kid. She could walk past you and you'd have no idea. She's a big-time hitter, and watching her on a big stage getting a clutch RBI in the Utah game to tie it up, hitting doubles and big hits off of some of the best pitchers in the country, that's been cool. And they're scoring runs. You've got Danny Lucy from Monona Grove just scoring a ton of runs. She flies on the bases. And then Paige Miller from Kaukauna, who, if you've come to the state tournament, you've seen them just dominate. She's just continuing to do it on the field. So that's pretty fun. And after graduating Kayla Conwent last year, we talked about, not worrying about the long ball. We just graduated, one of the best hitters to ever play at Wisconsin, a player of the year. And, we had 31 home runs last year. So we said, let's keep it simple and just, knock out our singles. And for the team to have 20 home runs at this point, 16 games in, kind of just shows that their fight, they didn't want to concede. And so that's been cool to see.
Kind of took my next question, but it seemed like every time, scrolling through Twitter, you see softball hit another, home run. Is that something that, fans and, we can expect out of this team?
Our focus is still quality at bats. So we're keeping it small, focusing on, being good two-strike hitters, focusing on advancing runners and doing the little things. And it's funny, I think it's kind of taken the pressure off the hitters. We've had years where we said, let's hit it over the fence. We can do it. We've got the power numbers. And sometimes, we've all kind of been around the game. Sometimes when you're pushing for the home run, you don't get it. And when we're keeping it simple and just focusing on those singles and kind of stressing the pitchers out and using our speed, it's led into more home runs than I've ever seen. So we're just going to stay the course, keep focusing on driving it up the middle and having singles. But I really think that puts them in a position to go for it with the long ball.
Obviously, you've had a chance to play a lot of games in a short amount of time here early on, but it's been against a lot of ranked teams and, really good teams across the country. So what do you feel like the benefit is of being able to play teams of, that stature this early in the season?
Yeah, I mean, usually you'll take a veteran team and play the schedule we did, and we scheduled it, and we had a tough pitching transfer that we really didn't expect, and so we definitely were overscheduled, and for this team to hang in there and keep their head above water and hold their own and play some great games and then come out with some wins, I think it shows kind of what a bunch of sleepers we have. So I love the matchup of it. I think everybody's ready to see some normal competition because seeing the top 5 teams in the country, it's eye-opening. But we've been able to hang with them, so I think everyone's excited to see now what happens when we're not playing teams 1 to 5.
Coach, talk about the addition of new associate head coach Mike Roberts and what he's meant to the team and what he brings to the team so far this season.
Yeah, I think if you look at the numbers, it's amazing. The pitchers, we just did not return a lot of wins on the mound. So you've got Tessa Magnanimo as a 5th year and Gabby Salo as a 4th year. And they've been nice pitchers, but they've been supporting actresses for us. Shelby Jacobson's a sophomore from Chicago that really only got in 1 game last year. So we had a really inexperienced staff, and Coach Roberts is just hilarious. I recommend if you're at the ballpark, get an interview with him. He's got an accent, so the girls love his New Zealand accent. They want to ask him to say tomatoes and bananas and all those things, but he is so darn knowledgeable. And so he keeps it simple. You can tell he was an elite high-level pitcher because he doesn't overcomplicate it. He works on their spin. Everyone's changeup's better, everybody's drop ball's better because he's just brilliant at the basics. But he's just been a phenomenal addition, and I think the confidence you're seeing from the pitchers for Tessa Magnanimo to get that ranked win against Utah, she was over the moon coming off that field. That it's one of the best games, that game and the Missouri game, two of the best games I've ever seen her throw, and it was worth the wait.
How does maybe going to all these nice warm places right now and playing in these tournaments kind of grow this team's chemistry?
Well, being on the road this much certainly grows your chemistry. You're home only a couple days. You're flipping your laundry and you're getting back on a flight to Palm Springs or to, I'm sure you guys feel bad, Palm Springs or Clearwater or facing some of the most beautiful places in the country. But you really, when you're living with everyone, and so all of us being on the road together, we're kind of in it together, and there is a ton of bonding. And we after the big ranked win on Saturday, you saw everybody dancing on the bus, and the bus was shaking, and I just laughed. I'm like, these are those moments when you're all in it together. So there's a lot of really good things happening behind the scenes too.
Coach, I think you've only had the same lineup maybe 2 or 3 times. Maybe talk a little bit about the depth and what that brings to the Badger softball team this year.
Yeah, I'm giving my lineup card a workout. I think we've got just a lot of role players, a lot of similarity, but that's fun. It breeds competition, and I think this team's wired for it. So a lot of people are getting in. You've got some phenomenal feet that coming off the bench, some great defenders. You've got some power in the lineup, and so everyone's just executing their role. If we could keep everybody happy, because usually it's a little easier when you have a starting lineup that just carries through. There's not a lot of questions, but when everyone's getting in a lot, everybody's fighting for it, everybody's vying for it. So that's a little challenging, but I think we've just got a great group of hardworking kids that love the team, and so they're up for the challenge. They all just say, hey, iron sharpens iron. And I hear Coach Fickle say that, and I see it on their T-shirts, and so maybe that's rubbing off on the softball team a little bit too.
Okay, last question. Home run celebrations. It looks like the Badgers have a big hat. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I don't know where the hat came from, but they're having fun. There is a giant hat, and when they hit the long ball, everybody's running out there to celebrate. But it's funny. They kind of come up with their own things, and you let them do that organically. But they're certainly celebrating when the ball goes over the fence, and they're fighting to see who's the next one to have the home run chain or the hat to wear. And there's a lot of different people that can hit the long ball. You've got Peyton Bannon, who's one of our speed kids as a senior. She had a huge home run for us in the Oregon State win. You got Fiona Gerardo off the bench. She's a fifth-year senior that battled ACL surgery. She comes in clutch off the bench. And so when you have that many kids that can put it over, it kind of becomes this little home run race that I'm excited to see them compete for it, to see who'll have the most at the end.